Welcome back. South Africans are stressed out, from financial pressures to crime, rolling blackouts, just enough to elevate anybody's anxiety levels at this place. Megan Hosking from Netcare Akeso says that living stress-free starts with a healthy routine. Let's find out more from her right now. Megan, thank you so much for your time and a very good morning to you. Look, South Africans are absolutely stressed out. We can understand why, with the definite economic pressures, life pressures, just social injustices and the like. But just talk to us a little bit about the impact of stress in our lives, and also how does one know that they actually are experiencing stress?
Stress has so many different ways that it manifests in our lives. We can see it in our emotions, we can see it in our physical health, and we see it in even things like our work performance. And you know that you're stressed because you may feel overwhelmed. You may exhibit certain anxiety symptoms. So things like your heart racing, you may be experiencing sweaty palms, your mind might feel like it's not switching off. But the good news is that stress is often confined to a specific event. So when we know that something is happening or when we experience stress, we know that there's an end date coming to that. And the concern comes in when you're not feeling that relief from that stress, then you may be looking at more anxiety coming through. And that's when really things like professional help, meditation and mindfulness can really help you. But we can do things in our everyday life that can help to minimize the impact that stress and anxiety has on our lives.
Yeah, you know, you're speaking here about how we can actually establish routines to minimize the actual stress. I can think the first routine starts by breathing. A lot of us that are under pressure and under stress, we struggle to breathe in sometimes. So take us through just some of those nuggets that we need to realize to help us manage, just cope with the stress that we're experiencing.
Yeah, so deep breathing and mindfulness activities work wonders for people who are experiencing stress because you can do them anywhere that you are, whether that's at your desk, in your car, at home. And there's lots of useful apps and online tricks to do that with, but the trick is really just to slow down and to focus on being present, which then helps your nervous system to react appropriately to that. The good news with the routine is when you start implementing a routine, it means that you start developing better habits. And those habits start paying off in the various aspects of our lives, and we start seeing the improvements in our health, both physical and mental. So what we really need to do is start by looking at how do we actually spend our time. Often we feel like we don't have enough time in the day when we're stressed. And by breaking down what we're spending our time doing, we're able to then assess where we can maybe better use our time. Are we spending too much time, for instance, checking our phones or doing things that could be done more efficiently? And then we can look at saying, well, actually, that half an hour of time in the morning could be better spent for me to set up my day proactively and to maybe go through my calendar, or to maybe take that half an hour to do some deep breathing and set myself up for a day. And over time, as we develop those routines, we become more set in them, so that we are able to then actually develop the habits. And once that happens, it takes a lot of the stress off of having to feel motivated to do those things every day. And rather than we just, by default, like breathing, start to realize that these small things that we've done add up and then ultimately actually help us to achieve our goals at the same time.
Yeah. How do we speak to people actually acknowledging, accepting, and even just voicing out that, hey, right now, I am feeling stressed. I am not okay, because I find that people bottle in, hide, and then they explode later on.
Yeah, it's a massive problem that we experience because when you're faced with stress, you feel like things are coming at you from all angles. And so even just taking a second to acknowledge that may feel like it's using too much of your time. We also face the challenge that a lot of our society and the things we see encourage us to just be okay and just get over it. But the reality is that we're human and we do feel these things. And so the most important step is, number one, realizing that. So tuning into your body, recognizing what are my signs and symptoms for when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed. They may be different to my partner's or my mom's or my child's. And so when we're able to do that, we're able to proactively realize that something's not going as well as it should be in our lives. And then we can start to realize, what can we do next? Is it a case of maybe taking a step back on something and realigning our goals or adjusting what we're doing? Maybe it's a case of needing a break when things are getting very serious. Or maybe it's a case of working through the process and making peace with whatever it is that's causing you stress, because unfortunately, we cannot control everything. So
Ah.
the most important thing, firstly, is to actually have those conversations and to speak to the people around us and say, I'm stressed about this. How are you dealing with it?
Definitely, Megan. I love the nuggets that you're offering for this morning because it's quite practical. And I think many people are dealing with that additional stress. And the big thing is just to speak about it, communicate so that it doesn't end up becoming this big bubble that needs to burst. But we'll leave it here for this morning. Much appreciated for your time. Megan Hosking, Crisis Line and Marketing Manager of Netcare Akeso.